Hello everybody, it's been a little bit since we chatted. Actually, the last time I did a video, we discussed my year-end results and some changes that we're going to make in 2024. 2024, quality over quantity. That's the plan going in. And that's how it's been, and it's been working really well. The very first event of the year. This is the first time I've done this. I won the very first event of the year. I've finished the year 3 times, winning the last event. 1999 U.S. Poker Championship. That was a big one for me, $210K. Whew! Still have that check somewhere. I don't know. New house, new setup. Anyway, I also won the last event at the Bellagio, the WPT 5 Diamond in 2004. And then a couple years ago, the Super High Roller Bowl was the last event. So I've done that 3 times. This is my first time winning the very first event. So I figured we'd do a little, sort of mini series on some of the hands that were played at the final table, my thought process, maybe you guys learn a few things. I think this first hand that we're going to cover is really quite interesting for a lot of reasons, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. We're going to combine our understanding of solvers and how people use them that led to a kind of an easy fold. All right, so let's talk about the hand.
As a new year of poker kicks off with the PGT Last Chance, we are coming at you live from the PokerGo studio in Las Vegas. Event 1, a 10K no-limit hold'em event, now officially down to the final table. My name is Remco Rinkema. Donnie Peters alongside me for some nightly action here coming from the Las Vegas Strip, and we have an absolutely stacked final table for you here tonight. 91 total entries in this event. We are down to the final table of 7. We just lost Nick Schulman right before getting the cards in the air on our streamed table, and it is Masashi Oya from Japan, number 1 on Japan's all-time money list. He is leading the way at this final table, but of course, all eyes will be on 2 players and 2 players only as we take a look at these payouts. 13 places got paid, $45K guaranteed for the remaining 7, and $218,000 up top for the winner. Like I said, all eyes on 2 players, Justin Bonomo and Mr. Daniel Negreanu. Donnie, what a start of the year.
All right, guys, so we are looking at hands from the PGT Last Chance series that started the year off, and if you want to watch it and plenty other high-stakes footage, you go to PokerGo, use promo code Daniel 2024, save yourself $20 off an annual subscription.
One player that we certainly don't think is going to back down at all, Masashi Oya. I think he's just going to be out there firing away with this chip lead. Really put the pressure on his opponents. Here he's coming in with a raise from the cutoff seat. Earlier in this hand, you saw Isaac Haxton fold under the gun ace-8 off, where if Haxton has the chip stack that Masashi does, maybe Haxton comes in with a raise there, right? But here, Haxton's going to take the conservative approach. Bonomo electing to call King 7 of Hearts out of the small blind, and now it's on Daniel. No need to get too crazy for Negreanu. Comes along as well.
3-way action here to the flop, both blinds involved.
We are at this final table. I start with about 32 big blinds-ish, which I start the hand, doing okay. Obviously, I'm not one of the big stacks, but doing okay. At a final table, anytime you're above 20, you're doing okay. So this hand comes up with 20 and 40,000 blinds and a 40,000 big blind ante. Masashi Oya raises from the cutoff to 90,000. Let's talk about Oya. Oya is, I believe at this point, the chip leader. He is, big time chip leader with like 4 million in chips. So he's going to be opening relatively, wide. He opens wide anyway, so on a big stack, just, wide on steroids. Now we have a call from Justin Giacomo in the small blind. And he calls the raise with the King 7 of Hearts. And I'm in the big blind with the Ace 6 of Clubs. Here's where things get interesting. Now, I mentioned my stack size was about 32 bigs. So that's a little bit too much to jam, right? You're going to face some traps from the small blind. Masashi's going to call a lot. Like, he's not the type of guy that is probably the ideal candidate for squeezes, generally speaking, based on my past history with him and understanding of how his approach to the game is. Like, I don't think I'm getting him to fold 2 8s for example, which is important. If you have ace-6 of clubs and you want to squeeze, you want to do so knowing that you can get 8s out, right? I don't think he's folding 8s. So then the question would be, what would the size look like? And jams too much, so it would have to be kind of a smaller raise, not committing myself, if you will. I elect with the ace-6 of clubs to not squeeze here. I just said, okay, let's just take a flop. And, you know, you're going to mix with that. You know, ace-6 is the worst suited ace you can have. You wonder why. Like, well, why is ace-5 better? Because you can make a straight. Ace-deuce 2, 3, 4, 5. But ace-6, it's the lowest kicker that you don't have 40% of a straight with. All right. So I just decided to call.
Wow, look at that. Ace, king, 4, top pair, and the nut flush draw for Negreanu. Oya, the same top pair, same kicker, but does not have the flush draw.
Also an interesting spot for Bonomo. Second pair against a very aggressive chip leader in late position, and Negreanu can really have a pretty wide range there from the big blind, so Bonomo's got second pair with the backdoor nut flush draw.
And of course, nothing strange about Oya continuing here. Playing against 2 players in the blinds, his ace-6 is going to be good quite a good amount of the time. Like you said, Donnie, can't fault Bonomo either here for tagging along. Interesting spot here now for Negreanu. Just comes with the call.
The flop is ding, 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 gin. Okay? Ace of hearts, king of clubs, 4 of clubs. So we have top pair and the nut flush draw. We have it all, right? Obviously, we're behind any other ace that's bigger. You know, ace king can still be there from Masashi. You're looking at the range for Bonomo, and realistically, you'd think the best he can have for the most part is like ace-4, king-4 suited. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But overall, you know, incredibly good flop. Jihadamo checks, I check, and Masashi, he goes ahead and bets 125. So relatively small bet, about quarter pot-ish, whatever. Or no, about third pot, whatever. And now you have Jihadamo calling from the small blind, and it's up to us. So this is a spot where, you know, you're not folding, right? The question is, do you want to raise now, right? Raise, get it in, raise, deny equity against what? There's not many threats out here. If you're behind, you need to hit. So if, you know, if Masashi has ace king or something like that, then I just have a flush draw. That's it. That's the only way I can win the pot. So do I want to play for stacks with a hand where if I do play, I'm going to be behind? The answer is no, right? So there's not a lot of concern about keeping Jihadamo's range in from the small blind. And again, you know, we could be behind Masashi. So I think here, frankly, the best play by far is to just call. If I only had like 8 big blinds or something like that, sure, you know, just dump it, get it in. But, you know, I still have a manageable stack. Have to protect my overcalling range here too, you know, and have some strong hands in it. So this hand is a great candidate to just call on the flop. And a lot of you guys, when you watch poker, you think about, oh, Daniel, you know, if you would have raised in the flop, you wouldn't hit the 3 kings on the third. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, but this doesn't mean it's right. You're just being too results oriented.
How do you feel about this, Donnie?
I don't mind it. I mean, it's kind of a tricky spot. Yeah, of course you have. Oh wow.
Wow. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, turn up the volume. We might see some fireworks here as Bonomo rips off a 3rd king. Both Negreanu and Oya with an ace. Negreanu not drawing dead. He still has the nut flush draw. And we could see the action get checked around here as it is now on Oya with ace-6.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how aggressive Oya wants to be, but I would expect him to check here. I mean, his kicker is really nothing.
The turn card is, in fact, the king of spades. Jihadamo checks. There's no point in me ever betting here. I mean, you could make some cases for a very small bet because I can have some king X here. But again, a lot of my king X folds on the flop too when it's bet call in front of me, right? So I don't even have a lot of that. My hand is likely going to be here a flush draw, an ace, maybe a gut shot, backdoor hearts, something like that, like 10 jack suited, one of those type of hands, right? So I check, and now Masashi, who also has an ace-6, he smartly checks back, understanding that, that king's not a great card. He can't beat a better ace, and he can't beat any of the kings.
Big river card coming up. It is the deuce of diamonds. Bonomo is going to get the check mark against 2 players with a pair of aces. Negreanu's hand very much under-repped. He's probably going to think that no one is going to give him credit for a hand this strong. Bonomo, perhaps, might have the others thinking that he's going to steal the pot here.
$450.
450 is the bet from Bonomo.
It's a healthy bet here. Just, I think Negreanu might find a fold here. Yeah, that's about half his stack. Oya, on the other hand, I mean, could pay this off here.
I mean, very, very well done from Negreanu. Calls one street, sees a free river card, and just gets away from it that quickly. I'm impressed.
Always hard when you're an aggressive player, when you're a chip leader like Masashi is, to flop top pair and ultimately get away from it. I know, like a lot of times you're just not supposed to have it, and then you have something, and it's like, well, what's going on here? But
I'm still thinking about how quickly Negreanu folded here. And Oya grabbing chips to make the call. And there it is. He tosses them in. Bonomo is going to receive a very big pot and a big smirk on the face of Negreanu.
You saw that? Yeah.
Now the river is the deuce of diamonds. Geronimo bets 450,000 into 685, so a pretty substantial sizing. Now, yours truly, I look at my cards twice and I fold pretty quickly here. Because when you're assessing the small blind range, there's several things to think about. How much King X does he have in his range? Well, based on a lot of the innovations and kind of advancements with solvers, one of the things that solver outputs showed people was that a lot of the hands that people used to fold are actually defends from the small blind. And those hands, predominantly I'm talking about, are suited kings. King 7, King 8, King 6, King 5, like King 4, all these suited kings now, you're seeing a lot of more players who study defending here. So, with King X being a very big part of his range here, the question is, what else is in his range that's a bluff? Okay, well, the bluffs are Queen Jack, 10 Jack, Jack 10. That's about it, right? Like, he's probably not betting an ace for this size. This doesn't make a lot of sense to bet an ace for this size, unless it's like ace queen and then or ace jack, which he's trying to get value from weaker aces. But even then, we don't beat that, right? All we have is just the ace. So when you look at the bluffs, like what bluffs just flatted pre and now is bombing big? Again, there's some combos, like I think 10 jack off doesn't necessarily play unless it's suited. Same with queen 10, jack queen. He may, in an ICM spot, fold those hands. So then you're left with just the suited ones, okay? And then all the suited ones probably do peel on the flop. That's the thing. So all those combos are there. But the one combo that is just screaming is so much more likely and is King X suited, right? Which is exactly what I thought. On the flop, frankly. When he called on the flop, I thought to myself, this is like King 7, King 8 suited. I didn't say it out loud because it was a three-way pot, and I wouldn't anyway. But I was pretty confident that that's a... He can also have an ace, no question, for sure. But I felt like King X suited was just by far represented the biggest part of the range. When you couple that in with, like I said, the pre-flop call, what solvers say, the call on the flop, and then the large sizing on the river, right? I also have Masashi behind me, although that's not really a big concern because when he checks back turn, there's really nothing to worry about. He's never going to have us beat, probably. I mean, well, he could have a better ace, but if I call, he's not even going to call with like ace, queen, ace, jack, I don't think. So yeah, I mean, it looks like, I didn't think about it very long because in the moment, I'd already thought about it. I already thought about his range pre-flop when he calls from the small. What does that look like? Then on the flop, when he can still call, what does that look like? And now when he bets big on the river, what does that look like? Okay. So, as I said, the bluffs are sort of the suited Broadway combos that missed. I don't think he's doing a lot of calling with like 7-9 suited, 8-9 suited, stuff like that potentially. But again, it's not a ton of combos. And overall, I just felt like the mathematical problem being presented to me was pretty clear cut based on the size. Now, if he bets smaller, the question is, what do you do there? Right? If he bets 1/3 pot, now you're getting a much better price. The question is, for 1/3 pot, will there be an equal number of bluffs? So there's a lot of things you got to think about when you play a poker hand, right? With a larger sizing, you can factor in a lot more bluffs, right? But let's say for example, use an extreme example. Let's say somebody bet in that spot the whole pot, full pot, versus 10% of the pot. Well, 10% of the pot's going to get called, right? So for 10% of the pot, there's almost no bluffs. Like, you're not going to do that with Jack 10. You're just wasting chips, right? So when the bet sizes get lower, you also find less bluffs. But, then you have the dilemma of you're also getting a better price. So that's what you'd have to factor in. In this case, it was quite easy because for the big size here, I felt, like I said, very strongly that it was a suited king. I was right. I make the fold with the ace-6. Now Masashi, who's last in position, decides to keep him honest, if you will. And as he was thinking, I'm like, yeah, he's going to be paying him off. And again, part of it is, just read 30 years of experience. But part of it, as you heard, was a little bit of understanding what game theory has sort of advanced with. And that's one of the big things. Like, let's say, if this was 2004, I'm not going to put him on king 8, king 7, king 6. People didn't call with those hands. Today you're seeing a lot more of that. So it made the fold rather elementary.